All right, good afternoon and welcome back. So, we're in our Guild Wars 2 story playthrough, and we are currently in Season 1, which, as I covered before, is kind of, was reintroduced about 10 years after it actually rolled out. And so kind of is a different thing than it originally was, but it fills that story gap for us, and is also like pretty good content in terms of um, being good gameplay because I think they did a pretty good job at polish when they reintroduced it. So that's where we're currently at. We just finished Flame and Frost, which was the kind of the first of 5 installments of Living World Season 1. So now we're ready for the next installment, right? Um, Now we did get a letter in our box, a little. I always want to call it email. I suppose it's not email, but whatever it is, a pigeon brought us a letter. Um, and of course, I opened it without even thinking about it because I have a tendency to do that. I like to keep this clear, just like I like to keep my inventory relatively clear. It's not perfect right now. I actually need to drop a bunch of this stuff off in the guild bank, but um, so I opened it without even thinking about it. But it's not actually related to the story in terms of Sky Pirates, which will be our next chapter that we're going to start today. Instead, it's related to something that was introduced during season 1, but was not actually really relevant to season 1 at all. It was like this weird one-time event, and so this consortium thing is related to the rollout of the South Sun Cove map, and then there were also some other events that happened in the world and stuff. So this was kind of season 1 at its most season 1-ness, which was, as I've said before, I don't think is a terrible thing. In fact, I think it's a good thing. However, it was not a viable thing for ArenaNet. They weren't able to do it as well as they would have liked, and it didn't prove to be commercially, they couldn't make money off of it. So that's a good reason for a company to stop doing something if they're not making money. So as much as I liked the model and I was hopeful for what it might be, they did go away from it after season 1. Even season 2 did not work the way season 1 did. So truly, season 1 was like its own unique thing. All right, so we're starting the next portion, which, as we just looked at, is called Sky Pirates. Let's see what's going on there. We do have an email now that is actually relevant. So this figure, you may not know me, but I know you. I'm calling upon you because you're capable in the face of danger. If you consider yourself a force for good in this world, then I implore you to attend the Dragon Bash effigy ceremony in Lion's Arch. I've heard whispers about a threat to the ship's council and, if left unchecked, to the city itself. I'd intervene myself, but circumstances prevent it. I'd wish you luck, but luck is what fools and idiots require to stay alive. You, I believe, are neither. Okay. And then I will contact you again, which they will. And then signed E. So, much later, we're going to, if I'm not mistaken, then we will get more of this, but like way later in the future, in terms of better understanding E. I genuinely do not believe that ArenaNet had the slightest idea what they wanted to do with this when they rolled it out. I think they were just looking for a mechanism to advance the story, and this met their purposes. I don't think when ArenaNet did this, I don't think E was meant to be anyone at all. I actually believe E stood for exposition. Still believe that to this day. E, exposition. We don't know how to provide this next trigger for story, and so here it is, an anonymous letter. Truly believe that's what ArenaNet was doing here. Be that as it may, that is our trigger for the next part of the story. So Dragon Bash was really appropriate at the time, right? Because we completed the core story, we've defeated Zaitan, and it's an opportunity for the the collective races of Tyria to celebrate that victory. And so it also made a really great vehicle for them to roll out more story And so I do really like how that manifests. Like that works really well. I don't have as much as I like kind of complain about the story sometimes. I have no complaints on that being an effective vehicle for some plotline. Um, so that's what we see here. As soon as we roll in to Lion's Arch, we see like these, and this was an open world festival. This was, and Dragon Bash continues to be a festival to this day. It's no longer in Lion's Arch. It actually now takes place right where we just right where we just came from in Holbreck is now where Dragon's Bash takes place, and that's because they wanted to kind of spread out the festivals across the different races and so forth. But the original Dragon Bash was an open world event that took place here in Lion's Arch. It was at the time kind of a one-off, and now it's a yearly event, right? So this will be where we find ourselves as we pick up the story. We are here to celebrate our victory over the dragons.
Captains and crews, and visitors too, welcome to the first annual Dragon Bash. Is everyone having a good time? It's time to light the effigies and turn this Dragon Bash into a Dragon Burn. But first, let me introduce the other ship's council members who are joining us today. Please give a hearty hi-ho to the finest captain on the council, Captain Anne Reed. And when I say fine, I do mean fine. Next on the docket is the captain of the Sprocket, Captain Talk, one of the most impressive Asura ever to sail the seas.
If you like my sprocket, Magnus, you should see my new rocket.
Whatever. And last but not least, it's Captain Theo Ashford of the Ascalonian Ashfords. A more effective family of cutthroats never lived.
Ah, you're too kind, Magnus. I'll have to work extra hard to live up to your praise.
You'd better, you salty old dog. The ship's council would also like to welcome the cultural representatives joining us today. They're all secretly wondering if we brought them up here to sacrifice them. No, of course we didn't. Let's give our brave visitors a hand. They've brought memorials for their kin who were killed by dragons. All hands on deck. Toss your memorials on the pyre. Let's light the horizon with this dastardly dragon. Begin the burning! That's right. Toss your memorials right on the effigy. Everybody, let's remember all those we've had taken from us. Nicely done, friends. Nicely done. All right, light 'em up. Light 'em up! Light 'em! Great spirits!
Okay. Oh no. Bad things happening.
Stay calm. The Lion Guard are here.
Oh,
You
good.
there,
Ellen
get
Keel.
to the counselors and protect them. You, get up to the stage and form a perimeter around the counselors. Lion Guard, go get that Doliak and bring it to the front. We have injured and we need to get the counselors to safety.
Who needs assistance?
See if you can help the Char cultural rep. He's injured and not moving.
I'll do what I can.
Stay alert, everyone. That may have just been the prelude. Oh no. Some are seriously injured. Where's that Doliak? You, and... Mists. All of you. Go with that Doliak. Make sure the injured counselors get to the fort.
Oh, I'm gonna get run over by the ambulance Dolyak here. Alright, so some of these names are relevant. Here we got Captain Theo Ashford, there's Captain Talk. What happened to Anne Bonny? I don't know. So she's clearly named after the actual pirate, right? Theo Ashford is a name that will come up again much later. It's a long time before we see that, but one day we will see that. Ellen Keel is going to become a prominent character for us going forward, and I do have, like, there's a lot more to talk about there. There's really a lot more to talk about with a lot of this stuff. So Lion's Arch, this version of Lion's Arch, the original version of Lion's Arch, well, this is actually not the original version. So this version of Lion's Arch was founded by these by a collection of pirate sea captains. It's almost actually like a pirate haven of sorts, kind of like you would hear about in like some kind of fantasy story, you know, where there's a which is rooted in some you know history when you talk about like the Caribbean and the kind of the peak of piracy, the glory days of piracy, and so forth. And that's kind of what we have going on here with Lion's Arch. So that's why where this captain's council comes from, is these are the captains who have been made responsible for the preservation um, of Lion's Arch. So right now we have these characters who are attacking us. This obviously is in concert with you know with the attack that injured these folks that were the captains and some of the cultural representatives that we are escorting right now. And we don't, as of right now, know who they are. You can see they got like this steampunky thing going on here. Um, but this would be because it, you know, the fractals that feature these guys and all everything that features these guys comes after this point. At this point in the story, when this was initially rolled out, this was the first we had seen of these dudes. So this is our, you know, mysterious attacker was at that point in time, right? Like truly mysterious. Like we don't know who they are. Now we might be able to surmise from the title of this chapter, Sky Pirates, that they are in fact Sky Pirates. That would be accurate. They are Sky Pirates. Of course, now we know them as the Aether Blades, and that is indeed what they are. No longer a spoiler because we're at that point in the story. But you know, at this point in time, these were a completely new foe, right? And I've been pretty clear and will continue to kind of beat my drum on the fact that I think they were a very good foe. And you know, because they take us like completely away from the dragon thing and so forth. And they're fun and interesting and so forth. So I really liked the Aether Blades as an enemy in Guild Wars 2, and I still, even you know, as of spring 2023, would love to see more of it. I don't know if there's space in the story for that anymore. It would be nice though. No, no. No, that didn't work out well for me. So some of this stuff, honestly, when the Aether Blades rolled out, not so much in an instance like this, because that isn't really where they, you know, at the introduction of the Aether Blades and where players really experienced them, was some open world stuff where they were, you know, we were experiencing the Aether Blade invasions. Um, when that started happening, that was kind of, um, they were more formidable than most open world foes we had faced up until that point. So in that sense, they kind of preceded, uh, you know, folks talk about how the open world level of difficulty rose drastically when we got the first expansion, Heart of Thorns, which is true. There's nothing untrue about that. But we did kind of get something that preceded that that may have potentially forced a lot of casual Guild Wars 2 players to play in a way that they had not before that, because the game did not ask them to do it before that. And for me, it was the Aether Blades. Now, I'm not very good, so like for me, or as it was upon release, was a bit difficult. But then the Aether Blades I felt were more difficult. So you know, honestly, when Heart of Thorns dropped, which again is quite a while after this in terms of our story playthrough, but when that first expansion rolled around, I don't know that I felt this drastic increase in difficulty, because we did already get some things out of the Aether Blades that prepares us for an open world foe
I'm opening an official
brings a little more to the
investigation
table.
into what just happened here. Thanks for your help. I think it's fair to say you saved a few lives today. Go enjoy what's left of Dragon Bash. There's nothing more to do here. I'll check in on the injured.
So at this point in time, we have Ellen Keel here as an inspector, and you can see from her attire that she is an inspector in the Lion Guard. Who, by the way, these days, their armor and like weapon skins and stuff don't necessarily rate with some of the stuff that's in the game. But at launch, I thought this was a good armor set and a good weapon skin. Like I thought the Lion Guard were, cool, if you will. When compared to other things that were available at launch. So, all right. So now we know a thing has happened, and we're introduced to an adversary that was unknown to us. We get another letter from E. E, who knows so many things and conveniently loops us in on these things. Now, it's also of note here that the feel that ArenaNet was going for in terms of the season 1 story, they were very much looking for a kind of film noir detective kind of feel, which is why the characters we're going to meet next are the way they are and why these letters are phrased the way they are. That's not a coincidence by any stretch of the imagination. It is very deliberate on the part of ArenaNet. That was the feel they were going for, and they said that. They enumerated on that at that time. All right. The situation is worsened. So this is, again, coming from E. One of the Lion's Arch counselors, Theo Ashford, has succumbed to his wounds. And again, we'll learn more about who Theo was like 10 years later. 99 and change after this originally took place. Lion Guard is keeping that quiet, though, because they're trying to, keep people calm and keep the festival going, right? Go to Divinity's Reach in a back alley bar called the Dead End, of course, because, again, they're going for the film noir thing, right? So a back alley bar called the Dead End. You'll find one of the best investigative minds in Tyria, Marjorie Delacroix. So now we're going to get introduced to another character, right? She will need your help to find those behind the counselor's deaths. Tell her E sent you. Okay. Well, cool. Let's do that then. Let's go meet this character. So now we're kind of adding to some of the folks we met, because we met Rox and Bram, right? So these are season 1 has already given us 2 characters that we did not meet during core story, and here we go. We're going to meet another. Strange sound echoes in the darkness below. Could all those stories about drakes in the sewers be true? So this is at launch. There's a whole thing here. At launch, this was not here. At launch, this area was like ruins from some sort of collapse that took place within the city, and the queen promised to rebuild what was there, and so on and so forth. And so there was dialogue between characters in this area about what might have happened under the city and so forth to contribute to that. And one of the things is supposedly there were monsters in the sewer of Divinity's Reach. Years later, we will find out what is in the sewers of Divinity's Reach. It's quite a ways away. So again, like film noir, right? Even the loading screen.
Could have been just another dreary night in the same old smoky bar, or that siren song lulling drunks and lonely hearts deeper into their sorrows. It could have been, but then he walked in. Logan Thackeray, the man with all the answers. Well, some of the answers, some of the time.
Marjorie Delacroix?
If it suits you.
It suits me just fine. I want to hire you. There's been a murder. Lion's Arch Counselor Theo Ashford is dead, and I want to know who's responsible.
Sounds like a job for the Lion Guard. What's got you peaked?
Between you and me, Ashford's an old friend of the family. I want to make sure they find his killer.
I see. And you don't trust the Lion Guard.
Let's just say I'm hedging my bets. The pay's good. You in?
How can I say no to Captain Lowe?
No names. I was never here.
Maybe not, but your money is. I'm in.
Lady Casimir, what are you doing in a place like this?
Good to see you.
Is it, Logan? Is it good to see me? Because you were just trying to tell
Excuse me,
people that
Joey.
you weren't
What
actually
did
here.
Logan Thackeray want?
Justice, I guess. And he paid in advance.
Where are you going this time?
Lion's Arch. Come along if you like. I could use your special talents. Besides, Dragon Bash is in full swing.
Thank you. That's so kind. I believe I shall.
All right, so that's actually terrible. Like that is just awful. It, it's like an 8th grade play. And this is when I was kind of giving like my little prelude or kind of talking about what season was and people remembering it fondly, and in truth, it wasn't very good. But it was good at the time because it was the first thing after core that we got, and it was exciting to get new stuff, and it was an adventure. This is what I'm talking about. That is not good. It is bad. But at the time, it was exciting. And so I remember season 1 very fondly. I think most people who played season 1 probably remember, when it was coming out, as these things were happening, the day that this was new, and I played this. Man, I was excited about it. Even at the time, I was like, man, that whole like little cutscene thing there is like not good. Like even at the time, I felt that way. But it was so exciting that I didn't care. Now, after all these years, like it's easier to look back and think to yourself like that was not a great experience. And not only that, but it's a deviation from the tone of core story, right? Core story, for however good or bad it was, had a certain tone to it. Now this is completely different. Almost comical in its like over the top inability to take itself seriously. Like, okay, so it is what it is. We got various bar patrons and a bartender and so forth, and then we see that Logan has commissioned Marjorie, this private investigator, to look into what happened there at Dragon Bash and that essentially a terrorist act or an act of sabotage, and then Marjorie and Casimir here, who is an acquaintance or a friend or someone who's close to Marjorie. Obviously, as we go forward, their relationship will become more defined, but at this point, it might be a little bit unclear what that relationship is. All right, so the letter from E said to name drop when we met Marjorie. So here we go, name drop. And actually, I don't know that we ever find out who E is. We find out who our herald is. I'm not sure we find out who E is, and if we don't, it's for the best because again, I think it just stands for exposition. Anyway, I honestly believe that. All right. Do we have any warrants? Nah, not that I'm aware of. All right. Yeah, a lot of dialogue. Let's go to Lion's Arch. Let's not spend a whole lot more time with this, shall we? But we should talk to these folks. Yes, I am here to assist. Am I assisting now? I thought I was like the player character. Now, in fairness, though, I wish this happened a lot more, where the player character assisted and like was a part of things, not the epicenter of like the entire universe. Like I do not want planets revolving around the player character. I just want the player character to be part of the story. And here we get that, right? We are assisting. We are part of the story. So that's a little, this might actually be better. My lady, we're talking to Casimir saying my mead and saying my lady. That's because she is in fact like of nobility. All right, we'll learn more about that later too. E. This is the other thing, the mysterious Mr. E. So if it doesn't stand for exposition, it might just be that Mr. E is a mystery. Like this is how little ArenaNet was taking itself seriously at that time. But all right, we're gonna go to Lion's Arch. Let's talk. Apparently, the bartender has something to say here. Who I'm not sure is ever the bartender again after this instance. To be honest, I'm not sure we see this guy again. All right, literally none of that do I care about. It's a bar. Cool. Sounds wonderful. All right. Alrighty, to Lion's Arch we go. And because I'm cheap, we're gonna waypoint here because that cost me nothing, and then we'll go through the little portal. And speaking of being cheap and actually having gold, did Kamali's blade sell? Do I have like 40 some odd gold sitting here? I do. Well, that's nice. That was nice to get like the a drop that had some value. It's not something I ever count on, but it's always welcome when I experience it. Oh, do we actually enter from the outside? We do. So when they rolled season 1 back out, that was how they did it, is they put the the little green marker for starting the story outside of Lion's Arch for all these. I'm sure there's a very good reason for it. I don't know what that reason is. It struck me as interesting. I'm definitely not criticizing it because it's not disruptive in any way, and I imagine that there was like a very good reason for why they chose to do it. If anything, it kind of is consistent that throughout our Season 1 playthrough, most, if not all, the instances take place in Lion's Arch, launch from right here, so there's some consistency to that is actually pleasing. It's something the studio struggles with, too. ArenaNet does not have like consistency as their big strong point, to be quite blunt. Alrighty. People still gathered around the crime scene. Is this only like hours later? We did go all the way to Divinity's Reach. Is this just what people are doing like days later, hanging out by the crime scene? Where's Casimir going?
Oh, how are you?
Alright, so she's just walking around eliciting information from people, essentially.
You look like you're in charge.
You're smarter than you look.
So my mama always said. But I'm not here for witty banter, satisfying as that might be. I'm a private investigator from Divinity's Reach, and I want to offer you my services.
What could you possibly offer that the Lion Guard doesn't already have covered?
That's a loaded question. Let me tell you about my Tassie box. I bought it off a snotty little Asura. It can detect all manner of energy fluctuations. May I demonstrate?
Now you've got me curious. Of course, curiosity killed the cat. But go on. Show me.
Man, this dialogue.
Just press those buttons and see what glows.
What does that glow mean?
It means the dead Char recently came in contact with the arcane residue. And not while his life was passing before his eyes.
No kidding.
Not even if you ask nicely.
Alright. So we're going to take one of these boxes, and we're going to test people in the area. I would say this is the Tyrian magical equivalent of checking for gunshot residue, essentially. It will show us if they have arcane residual energy on their person, which will then tell us who came into contact with magic or arcane stuffs. We tested Marjorie. She apparently was not pleased with it. It made sense to me. Alright, Ellen Keel. Also not pleased with the fact, well, hostile witnesses over here. Alright, so Magnus the Bloody-Handed, one of the captains on the Captain's Council, who was up here when the attack took place. As you may remember, Magnus was all the way over here The other captains going this way were all closer to the blast, which happened right here, killing Garrot Amber Cowl over here, and then ultimately killing Theo Ashford, who is right here as well. And then we had Tackett, or whatever his name was, and Anne Bonny, both of whom were injured. All right, we got some other folks here. So here we have a citizen who was very close to everything when it took place, and actually was one of the folks who provided assistance to Garrot Amber Cowl before he ultimately succumbed to his wounds.
You must be kidding.
Don't fret. You'll come to no harm unless you had a hand in what happened. She's glowing. All right, lady. You better start talking.
Are you accusing me?
Wait. Could she have gotten it from the dead char that glowed? She attempted to revive him.
The detective would know that too, if she paid better attention to her crime scene.
Oh, disappointment. Well, you're one lucky little pirate, you are. Consider yourself exonerated.
Alright, so without going too far down the road, I don't want to like actually spoil something that's going to be an important part of the story later, but I will say that this citizen is going to, we're not done with her. She's going to remain here with the rest of these folks. And as is everyone else. No one at this point is leaving. All right. So Magnus was not at all pleased with us doing our little test. So far, nobody's been pleased about this. Which I guess is understandable. When you show up to a crime scene and start like testing people for stuff, I guess it's normal for them to be a little bit put off. So these are some of the representatives who came from different places to like put their offerings here at the effigies as like a, sometimes people will destroy things that remind them of their past, and it's symbolic of them moving on from their past. That's essentially what was taking place here. So this was the representative from Ebonhawk, right? The human cultural ambassador for Dragon Bash. All right. So we have some actual testimony here in terms of possible suspects or some stuff that was going on, right? A list of folks who were acting a little weird. Okay, so who are you? The Norn cultural representative. For someone who takes pride in being a hunter, you'd think that they would have been able to sort through some of that noise, but okay. You should always have your identity cog with you. I carry my identity cog everywhere I go. So here we have the Asuran rep. So you note that when the Asuran rep here, Zuri, when she was discussing or providing her introduction, she mentioned, as would any Asura, I think, within their culture, kind of her background academically, because that's so important to Asura. So she might have the expertise to then make some of these assessments that she's talking about right here. A strange reaction taking place as they put their items into the effigy. There was, in fact, an arcane chromatic discharge. In other words, magical colors shooting out of the fire, right? As if a cascading escalation, i.e. explosion, were taking place. Certainly not supposed to happen. Certainly not, Azuri. I am in 100% agreement. What does Saraki here have to say? That's actually pretty, what?
5 of the cultural representatives failed to report in. We better track them down. Ms. Delacroix, I'll contact you and your associates when we have something to investigate. Thanks for everything.
Okay, well, I wasn't done, so I'm going to finish. Thank you very much for interrupting me. All right, so here we have two of kind of the other races representatives. The Grawl, who, like I was saying, like that was actually like, it's interesting that they chose to have the Grawl say like a lot like that, because that's really kind of weird. And then we have the Hylek representative, right? Like, so like these frog folks. All right, so we're missing some of the cultural reps. That may be an issue of concern. Ellen, what do you think about it? It doesn't seem like a one assassin job. It is not, especially considering like 50 mysterious attackers appeared. All right, what can we do? We'll ask around about the missing cultural reps. I like it. Let's do that. Another letter. So, when I did the introduction to season one of the things I mentioned is it was actually like a real slow burn. And yeah, there was like regularly things happening, but the regularly things happening were very small. So in many of these cases, like all these little letters, these were separations of periods of time when we were waiting for new stuff. So whereas today I'm burning through multiple letters, this was weeks of content when season one first came out. Now, by all means, like check the wiki and like fact check me on that, and maybe we'll discover that like all this was released at one time, but I don't believe it was. These letters generally represented. This was how a player logged in and found out something new was happening. Was one of these letters. So in most cases, these letters represent a period of time passing when season one in 2013, I believe it was when season one was a new thing. All right, so Lion Guard has leads on 3 of the 5 missing representatives. That's great. We should probably like hunt them down. All right, so I don't know what Casimir's doing paperwork back at the bar apparently, but we need to track all these folks down. Apparently they're all over the place because they're not in Lion's Arch. We need to convince them to return to Lion's Arch. Ogre suspect, Bork. Quaggan suspect, Moralu. And the Skrit suspect, Kasparak. And Skrit should really be a suspect for almost everything. So we're going to end up in Bloodtide Coast and Gandharan Fields, which is where we're at right now. And then probably back in Lion's Arch. All right. Well, one of them is on this map. We can see that right here. So let's try and hunt that down. Which one was it that was here? Was it the Skrit or the Quaggan? I don't remember. Let's go find out. Let's look into this matter. Some people really enjoy this, like looking for things in the world. I am not one of the people who like particularly enjoys that, but some people do. And sometimes when ArenaNet rolls out stuff and I'm like, I'm not enjoying this. This isn't like fun for me. It is important to note that it was not necessarily included for me. Like there are other folks who really enjoy looking around maps for things. All right, Kasparak. I am not shiny. I smell like the sea? What does that even mean? All right, Shiny man gave me shiny for big party. Said they gave other Skrit a long vacation. That was nice. So the other Skrit was probably killed, right? I think we can like safely assume that. Shiny man gave me shiny for big party. This right like you don't take a bag that's not yours from someone at the airport, right? And now I feel like that's what Kasparak did. He met someone at the airport who was like, "Hey, can you hold my Gucci bag? It's really nice. It's a Gucci bag." Now, which would immediately be off-putting to me, but not for a Skrit. So they held the Gucci bag. Hey, please go back to Lion's Arch because we need to look more into that. No big noise. Yes. So Kasparak did not want to be around for further explosions and scary things.
Skin me if I find them. Can't leave. Never leave.
Oh, Kasparak's really stressed out about this too. So we need to get him back to Lion's Arch. Let's just tell him there are shiny things there. Like, won't that work? He's Skrit. It did work. Yeah, 2013. There's even a date on the achievement there. Okay, Kasparak. Back to Lion's Arch he goes. We are 1 out of 3. One of them was in Bloodtide Coast, right? Let's head down there. See if we can find... So this should be the Quaggan that we're looking for now, because we found the Skrit, right? That NPC is like always dead. Like always dead. It's interesting because they don't often put NPCs in a position like that to like always be getting killed by the enemies in the area. For whatever reason, that one is in a spot where even if you like res her, 5 minutes later she's gonna be dead, and then another player's gonna have to come along and res her again. Alright, somewhere in this circle, probably in this Quaggan. A Quaggan village is a good place to look for a Quaggan, right? Oh, we got the little green thing over here. Alright, Quaggan's over there. Oh, am I talking to the right person? There we go. So there was a direct threat here. Like this Quagga did not have a choice, right? Or they had a choice, but there was like coercion with threat of death, right? They threatened Quaggan's nursery. Who's they? What are they? They did something to Quaggan's offering. So in other words, what the Quaggan was going to put into the fire or whatever was tampered with in some way. At least the tadpoles are safe. All right, again, we got. Are we really gonna guilt trip the Quaggan? Like look at what Quaggan already are. Like is guilt trip? Like let's do the heart again. We did the heart before, it worked. It takes courage to defend tadpoles like that. All right. I also think I'm exaggerating. Morlou, you and I are on the same page. But Quaggan understands and will come to Lion's Arch. Super. So back to Lion's Arch we go, because we still got to track down the ogre, right? We still got one of the cultural representatives who is missing. By the way, unrelated to the story taking place, this heart, another one that I do not enjoy. The frog thing is just weird. My daughter loves it though, because she collects the frogs. She has a character with like an entire stack of the frogs from this heart, just like hanging out in the inventory. It's pretty wild, actually. All right, so we got an ogre to find, an ogre who was witness to a crime or an accomplice to a crime. I don't know. What do we got here? We got a circle over here. The ogre is somewhere in that general ballpark. This is one of the parts of of this Lion's Arch map. When it went from old Lion's Arch to new, well, when it went from old Lion's Arch in terms of Guild Wars 2 to the current Lion's Arch that we now see, this area changed quite a bit. And then this was a newer edition much later in the story. So when Season 1 was happening, like this airship was not here at all. And I genuinely do not remember where this poor ogre is. I know where he's not back here. Alright. I don't see any ogres back here either. So as I recall, this ogre is not actually like the easiest to find. That is a thunder shrimp, not an ogre. Alright, so we see the little green thing back here within the rocks. I feel like we're going to end up looking for some kind of underwater cave or something. It might be the cave where, like, the ecto-gambler is. Which I don't even remember how to get in that cave. If there's one thing that I do not do in this game, it's the ecto-gambling. I don't even... So recently there was like a big story in the subreddit about someone who had a gambling addiction, and that was kind of triggered or exacerbated by the ecto-gambling in... See, we were just up here, weren't we? In Guild Wars 2, and that was hugely problematic for them. That is very unfortunate. I would stop short of saying that like ArenaNet has violated some sort of ethical or moral tenet by having gambling in the game, but I don't necessarily know that it's a good look for them either. I don't know what they benefit. I think it's just intended to be a material sink, but they're I much prefer the material sink they just added to the game. All right. I don't remember. Wait a minute. I'm really stupid. How did I miss that before? I'm wildly unobservant. and he's dead. So all that searching for someone who is dead. The good news is he wasn't going to evade us, because he was going to lay here until we found him. Oh, do we have the Tassie box? And it detects anomalous arcane materials. Cool. Alright. Getting a letter. Alright, so we're still looking for a Kodan in Snowden Drifts. And Silvari somewhere in Caladan Forest. Alright, so we got two... Caladon. So we got two more we need to run down. Cool. Alright, let's do that. Get out of here. Alrighty. Where we got like a circle on this map? We should be up in the north. Yeah, way up in the north. Probably should have waypointed over here. That's alright. Won't take long at all. We're getting a grand tour of Caladon Forest, which obviously we would have already navigated quite a bit had we started with Silvari. It is a shame that I don't like Silvari more, because they were really written more than any other race. I think they were like written into the world of Tyria and written into Guild Wars 2. The other races already existed in Guild Wars 1. Maybe not as playable races, but they existed. So their lore and their kind of the cultural vision in terms of what they are and so forth began a long, long time ago in the first Guild Wars game. But Sylvari were a completely new innovation for Guild Wars 2, so their identity is tied exclusively to the lore and the world of this game. And thematically, what they are is actually very interesting. It just, unfortunately, just doesn't resonate with me at all. And I get really turned off by like the weird like kind of caste system that's baked into who the Sylvari are. I think there was very deliberate reasons on the part of ArenaNet for why they made that way, and kind of what their vision was for, what they were trying to communicate through that. But it is a big turnoff to me. Okay. So back here, where we're going to find the Sylvari, if they are where I remember them to be, and they are. This was actually a site of when we first meet these mysterious attackers that we saw a little bit ago in Lion's Arch. There was a whole group of them back here during that period of time that you come back and fight, and because there were achievements associated with killing a certain number of them and so forth. Then this was one of the spots where you would come for that. So when they kind of put all this back together, now we get this Sylvari here as well. All right. Not here to kill. I am not here to kill you. That is, in fact, and I am not Lion Guard. All right. So all these so we have like this super intelligent, observant Sylvari, and the Sylvari are very intelligent. So that that's not weird. Set up. What are you talking about? Face the police. Alright. I almost want to do this just because like that's like rewarding, right?
Try it. I dare you.
Well, now I'm definitely gonna go with this. If you want to, you know what? Like, all right. Oh, okay. All right. Try and kill me. Others have tried and failed. Though I like your determination. Do you? Because I straight just told you that I was gonna like stick an axe in your forehead. But now you like I don't know. Interesting Sylvari. And by interesting I mean what a weirdo. Ooh, I have not been in Snowden at all. We're gonna have to more running. What a nuisance.